related to one each other to build on a better view on the cannabis industry in Europe. And for that we have Staffan Hübinette, who also is a colleague of mine, who has written an interesting report, I could say, about what is happening at this day in Europe and as well in Sweden about the cannabis industry. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Yes, I will talk about the cannabis industry and the legalization in Europe. And this is what Europe looks like on the map. Stig-Erik has made a very good presentation, and the context in which I will talk about the cannabis industry. And Stig-Erik also gave a view over the drug or cannabis policy situation in Europe. What is cannabis industry? And what are the cannabis industry's strategies, and how do they influence politics? That's the question I will try to answer. And with legalization, there is a cannabis industry. And once established, this industry in turn also continues to influence politics, public opinion, and consumers. And seeing and being aware of this industry and the impact of this industry and the role of this industry is of great importance when we discuss drug policy and cannabis policy. In 2012, Colorado and Washington legalized as the first states in the United States. Today they are 22 that have legalized. And in 2018 it was Canada that legalized. And with this legalization, there has emerged a cannabis industry. And while we have had our eyes on Canada and the United States, things have happened in Europe that we haven't noticed actually. But the last 5-8 years, there has established a cannabis industry, and as Stig-Erik showed, in the field of CBD products and hemp products and medical products. So we have an established industry also in Europe today. And this industry is ready to take the next step to the recreational market. And these are the countries, and you showed what countries they are. And the most important country, of course, is Germany. And the European market is by its virtue a very interesting market because it's bigger than the North American market. So, of course, the cannabis industry look at Europe, has its eyes on Europe. And this is a report we wrote in NPC about the impact of legalization in Canada and the United States. And so we know quite a lot about what have happened the last 10 years. And this is a recent report from the UNODC. The World Drug Report also gives a very good picture of what have happened after the legalization. And this is also a recent report from the INCB office. And I recommend you to look at these reports. The interesting thing is that no one of these reports has been reported in the news, in the media. It's no interest, but the reports are very interesting. And now, a couple of weeks ago, the German government presented a technical report, a scientific overview over the evidence. And it's interesting because they should have done this before they decided to legalize. It was the legalization decision in Germany, as you said, Stig-Erik, was a result of political outrage, so to speak, and not evidence, scientific evidence. After this decision, they asked for the scientific evidence. And what does that show? That the decision was not a good idea, actually. But it's too late now. And this is the report Peter talked about that we have released, and I written it myself. And the question is, we see now a new market, and Stig-Erik, you talked about that, and we have a new industry, and I will talk about that. And we have a new alliance, so to speak, not only alliance between these states you mentioned, but it's a broader alliance for cannabis and legalization, and I will mention about this. And when we started to think about this report, we had an idea to make a survey of the cannabis industry in Europe, and but it turned out to be quite difficult because it is exactly what you said. It's like shooting at a moving target. It's changing all the time. So what we have done is trying to see structures, pattern, trends, and give some example. And I will give some example today too. And what we can state is that we are in a new situation in Europe, and it has gone very fast the last years. And the question is, what would it be like in the next coming years? And will there be a domino effect after the German legalization? The cannabis industry we have had an industry for the past 15, almost 20 years in North America, but it was only with this was at the Global Economic Forum in 2019 that the cannabis industry was accepted and invited to the VIP room for the global capitalism, so to speak, and it's accepted. And cannabis business today is like any business. And the taboo was broken, and no one blushes anymore when cannabis business comes up. And this is just a headline. Bankers are circling Europe's growing cannabis market. The cannabis industry and the North American cannabis industry too, as Stig-Erik mentioned, has its eyes on the European market. But what is cannabis industry? What are we talking about? There is a core industry, so to speak. It's those companies that are cultivating, processing, producing and selling cannabis products, various cannabis products, from hemp to recreational cannabis and all things there in between. But there is also other companies and businesses that offer services to the cannabis industry and benefits from the cannabis industry. And then we have people, individuals and institutions that profits from the cannabis industry. And it can look like, I will not go in details here, but so the cannabis industry is a wide concept and includes not only the core businesses, so to speak, but also other get involved in cannabis business and make profits from cannabis trend and cannabis business. And as an example, we have Twitter, for example, that a few weeks ago Elon Musk declared that Twitter will open for cannabis commercials, advertisement. And a Swedish cannabis company actually was the first company to advertise on Twitter. All these will want to make money on the cannabis trend and have their share of this new green golden rush, so to speak. And this is just examples of the cannabis industry in Sweden. We have a number of companies in the CBD market,
konstigt eko runt gången.
We have industrial hemp production. We have other a bit more difficult to define what they are doing, but they are growing hemp. We have in the medical field, and we have investment companies that are investing only in cannabis business. And we have market advice. We have media that these companies, some of these companies own actually and have started. And we have a number of influencers that are promoting CBD products. And we have other companies that make money on things you can smoke and take cannabis. So this is what it looks like in Sweden right now, and all these are within the wider concept of cannabis industry. From the beginning, we had advocates, organizations that advocated for cannabis legalization. It was organizations like NORML in the United States, the Drug Policy Alliance, International Drug Policy Consortium, among others. And they were mainly sponsored by Open Society Foundation. But today it was activists in these organizations. But today we had another situation, and this is what I call the Cannabis and Legalization Alliance. Today we have not only these organizations, we have the industry, and we have politics. An example of industries, they organize themselves in trade organizations to have a stronger voice against the politics. Examples are European Cannabis Association, European Medical Cannabis Association, European Industrial Hemp Organization, German Cannabis Association, Cannabis Industry Council in UK. So there are quite a lot of such organizations. And then we have politics. In a number of EU states, there are parties that advocate legalization, and you mentioned that. There is a cooperation across party lines in national parliaments and in the EU Parliament. In UK, there is the all-party parliamentary group for drug policy reform, as an example. In the EU Parliament, there is EU Parliament Cannabis Reform Group with politicians from different countries and different parties, actually. And there are similar initiatives in several other countries. And then we have this alliance of member states, as you mentioned, Malta, Luxembourg, Czech Republic, Germany, and then we have the Netherlands, and then we have Switzerland outside the EU. And they coordinate their efforts. And during this winter, these states have been very active in Brussels in the dialogue with the EU Commission. And they try to influence and change the EU law, I guess they want. They need to do that if they want to legalize. And they are trying to have an alternative interpretation of the UN conventions. And they influence public opinion and also national parliaments and governments. And they have a common goal, as you also mentioned. We want to normalize and legalize cannabis. That's what they want. And why? This shows the households expenditures on medical marijuana in Canada. from 2010 to 2022. And they have their law changed in 2014-15 to get more liberal, so to speak. But what happened is that when cannabis was legalized, this is the big market. The medical market is limited, and the cannabis industries know that. So what they want is to have legalization for recreational marijuana too, because that's where the big money is. And what is the strategy? There are a couple of studies about cannabis industry strategy, and one of them is made by Peter Adams, and he has before made studies about tobacco, alcohol, and gambling industries. And in connection with the referendum in New Zealand 2020, the referendum for legalization, he made a study on the cannabis industry's influence during this campaign. And it's very interesting. And his conclusion is that the cannabis industry used exactly the same strategies as we know from the cannabis, the tobacco and alcohol and gambling industries. And this is the main strategies he point out: the political chain, politicians, the public good chain, and I will give some examples, and the knowledge chain. And these are examples. And one thing is the image of cannabis. That's very important, to change the image of cannabis from a risky and harmful drug to something very nice and very good for any purpose in your life. As I mentioned, they use the same strategies as the tobacco industry. And has anybody read this book? Gabriel? You haven't? This book was released in 1978. It was an Australian doctor who wrote it, and the message is: smoking is good for you. If you get cancer, it's not the smoking is the problem, it's other things. And if you get a heart attack, it's not tobacco. It's stress. And actually, tobacco, if you smoke, you get less stressed. So it prevents heart attacks. So smoking is good for you. And this is the Swedish version of it too. And those of you, Gabriel, for example, Slim and others that are some years older, you'll remember this. Why you see the smoking is good for you, and it's good for the child too, and the mother. And marijuana is good too. It's the same way to advertise and to promote cannabis as we know from tobacco. 5 ways cannabis makes me a better mom. And the cannabis industry focus on women, because women is the most interesting target group. The men is already on the cannabis side, but the women is not. So we have to focus on women. I just show you some images. So this is a way to normalize cannabis. You're laughing. This is serious. is for all purposes. And this is what we have seen for a long time in social media and elsewhere. But we also have this in Sweden. This is one of these CBD companies, Mantle, and it's started by Josefin Landgårds, who started Kry. And this is also financed by Kristina Stenbeck, an entrepreneur in Sweden. And this was advertised in the subway in Stockholm. And a young, middle-class, fresh woman, of course, use CBD. But why do they say celebrate 420 with us? 420 is a signal word, and that means we want to legalize, because then we can sell more products. And Cannabody, Cannabeauty gets Cannabody, goes Cannabody. So this is what the messages they want to send to young women. Cannabis is good for you. And here you have one of these entrepreneurs, and then Kakan Hermansson. She is an influencer, Swedish influencer, and together they have they sell now sentence candle with cannabis that smells cannabis, and you have to pay 800 crowns, about 80 euro for a scented candle. You pay quite a lot for a trend, so to speak. And this Kakan Hermansson, her birthday is actually on the 420. So why don't celebrate this? So the message is clear. We want to legalize. And this is another business, the Enexis. This is a Swedish investment company. And the headline here is "Så blir Stockholm ett cannabiscentrum." So will Stockholm be a cannabis center, is his message. And in an interview he says, "It's clear that the big money will come only when cannabis becomes legal for recreational use. The market already exists. We think about this all the time. How should we do if we are going to bet on this? And above all, how do we do it damn fast? Because you have to be early." So there's no doubt what he wants. And I will give a couple of other examples. This is Canovum. It's a German hemp company, and had initiated a cultivation alliance for Germany. And it says, "The aim of the alliance is to build a network of companies that will be a strong advocacy group for the cannabis industry." So they have to organize themselves. And the goal is to achieve, to actively shape the future of cannabis legalization in Europe. And this is from a conference last year in London. It's an annual conference for the cannabis industry, where the cannabis industry leaders from all over the world meet to discuss drug policy and cannabis policy. And I just give some examples of how they think and what they say. "We are ultimately trying to change society by bringing about acceptance and accessibility to cannabis in Europe. Given it, Germany is the largest economy in Europe. We think it will lead the way to create a domino effect for the rest of the continent." Now it has slowed down, as Stig-Erik showed us. There will be a delay of 5 to 10 years, perhaps. We'll see what will happen. And Germany will further become the undisputed cannabis industry capital of Europe. Get ready for a cannabis boom in Europe. So this is what the cannabis industry leaders are discussing. And this is this year's conference in the beginning of May. And at this conference, there were 500 leaders from cannabis industry all over the world gathered, but also politicians. And there were 50 exhibitors. The way forward is what we are doing. Individual states will change their laws and put pressure on the EU. Conferences are good, but we need to take concrete action. I will say it frankly, we need strong lobbying and campaign, put some money on the table and remove the unnecessary anxiety from politicians and educating them. And who says this? This is the Czech Republic National Drug Coordinator, Jindřich Wobor. He's a governmental official, and he is at the industry conferences and give this message to the industry. Put up money on the table, start pressure the EU. So this is an example of this alliance I talked about. And one thing, another example is this report, which models for cannabis adult use regulation in Europe. And it's a comprehensive report that outlines such a model. And it's made by a French law firm, Auger, that works for the cannabis industry. And this report was presented at the GEO conference in Prague in September last year for the 27 EU member states' national drug coordinators. So the cannabis industry was invited to that meeting to present this model. So this is another example how they influence politics. And this is another example. It's a report that is made by a German economics professor, Justus Haukapt, and he presented this report. It's a report about the economic effects of a legalization in Germany. And this report was released just before the election in October 2021 in Germany. And what he said is that this will give the state 4.7 billion euro in tax revenue and reduced costs for the justice system. And this was big news in Swedish media. 4.7 billion euro when you legalize cannabis in Germany. This is a good idea, was you could read. But no media, no one critically looked at this and asked, how has he make his calculations? And no one observed that this was paid by the German Hemp Association. It was the industry report. Finally, about the impacts of legalization, we know a lot today. And we know that the consumption is increasing, the frequency is increasing, and Berta Madras has talked about that. And we know a lot what will happen with health consequences and so on. And the INCB report conclude, in general terms, one can ascertain that legalization jurisdictions did not reach the goals they had pursued through legalization. It's quite clear, but no one has observed this report. No media at all. I will finally say something about, I changed my plan after Stig-Erik, but I will just as a comment to your discussion about legal and illegal market. This is, you can say that one way to estimate the market is to use the prevalence of cannabis use. And to the left you have the Canadian prevalence, 12 months prevalence. In 2012, it was 10%. And 10 years later, last year, 2022, the prevalence is 27%. So the cannabis use has increased. And so has the market, of course. At 2012, the whole market was illegal. And today, approximately 30%, I say 25% to be nice to the Canadians, is still illegal. So the illegal market has decreased, of course, but the total market has increased. But if we look at the Nordic countries, the prevalence is about 5% somewhere. It's a little bit higher in Finland, a little bit lower in Sweden. And the whole market is illegal. And assume that we should legalize, and after 5-10 years have an increase in prevalence and the market size as in Canada. It would look like this, and we should still have an illegal market that is as the illegal market now. And this is very important to remember. Of course, if you have a high prevalence from the beginning, we can assume that the illicit market will decrease when you legalize. But if you have low prevalence and a small market from the beginning, as in the Nordic countries, we can assume that you will still have almost the same illegal market after legalization, because the total market will increase. So we have two alternatives. One, legalization. It will look like this, and a prohibition model, a restrictive model. But we need to keep the consumption low to keep this. If we don't succeed in keeping the consumption on a low level, we will get problems. So high availability, low price gives high consumption. And low availability and a high price gives low consumption. So the question is, what will Europe look like in 5 years or 10 years? We don't know, but we can do something about it. And I would say that we have the same goal. This is what the legalizers say is the aim of the legalizing policy: to protect youth, to protect public health, to protect public security. But we know today that it's not so good protection for youth, and it's not a good protection of public health. Perhaps a decreasing illicit market will give a better public security, but you will still have an illegal market. We have two alternatives. The legalization want to normalize and promote cannabis use. And if we go on a prohibition or restrictive policy, we want to prevent and say no to recreational cannabis use, hemp products and some CBD products for your skin and things like that. It's no problem. But and the question is not yes or no to cannabis. The question is where to draw the red line and how to motivate it. And we have to put some questions to ourselves. Will mounting evidence for the negative impact of legalization be enough to resist the normalization and legalization trend? And do the benefits of prohibition outweigh those of legalization, or do the benefits of legalization outweigh those of prohibition? We have to see the whole picture in both cases and see what is a reasonable policy. If we have the goal to decrease consumption, decrease public health harm. And will politicians go against the cannabis and legalization trend at the risk of losing young voters in elections to come in Sweden and elsewhere in Europe? Because Justin Trudeau won the election 2015 on the legalization. And in Malta was the same. And there are other politicians that are thinking about this. And if we don't want to legalize, we have to be very good in our arguments to get the young people to accept a restrictive policy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for this good presentation, I guess. Do we have any? No question? I can ask you a question. What surprised you the most when you have done these reports and things?
Not surprised, but I realized pretty soon that the concept of cannabis industry is not the core industry. It affects a lot of other businesses, institutions, universities, for example. The cannabis industry cooperate with universities, sponsors professors, sponsors research, and sponsors education. In, for example, you can take an exam in cannabis entrepreneurship, for example, and so it has an impact on the whole society. And and they will have an interest to keep this up. These institutions, these other businesses, the tourism business, for example. If you go to Colorado, you have 420 friendly hotels, 420 friendly tours, 420 friendly everything for tourists. So of course the hotel businesses want to have their share of in this green golden rush.
Everyone wants a share of the increasing market.
Yes,
you could say. Okay, thank you, Staffan. You will have this gift for UNICEF in your name and
thank you.
Some chocolate.
Okay.
And we will see each other here at 1:15, and then the other group will come here as well. So free until then.